near Parasoli, and there's a lovely actual place where he lived, and it's quite nicely, looked after. Pictures of him surrendering to Vallabhacharyaji, and at the back, little cow living, a very traditional place. It's easy to enter into his mood there. So he wrote, "Main Giridhar ke gun gaun." I only want to sing of my Lord, Sri Krishna, particularly in the mood of when he upholds the Giriraji mountain. That's why he's known as Giridhari, the upholder of the mountain, when Lord Indra released the multiple storms upon Braj. Mera to vrata ahi hai. My only spiritual desire, or my, what would you call that, when you take an oath? My only oath is to sing of his qualities, and it's my innermost desire. And I don't want, please make it so that the only thing he would ever ask for is just make me so that I never think of anything else and that I desire nothing else. So this is his total self-surrender, Atmanivedan. And he was simple, very regulated. Sometimes when you see Giriraj, Vrindavan or Giriraj Parikrama, you see these village people going by. So wiry and strong with big, heavy things on their heads, striding down, no shoes, strong as, very, very strong. But they don't have any luxuries in life. So Kumbhan was like that. Uncluttered lifestyle. So there's nothing to clutter his head or his body. So he had a perfect standpoint of such a pure mind, is unobstructed by worldly wranglings. And his works are replete with countless devotional sentiments. We'll sing some of those later and look at the examples. And he's experienced expressions of impeccable humility, that's the thing. He never strayed from his humbleness. Humility and humbleness have a slight difference. Because humility is even a little more sophisticated than humbleness. He was just so humble. And of course, being so humble, that encouraged the grace of love from the beloveds to give him more and more insight into the Leelas, so that he can give to the devotees more and more inspiration as they read more of the actual ways that he expresses. Because we have a bhav, and then you do bhav bhavana. So there's a bhav that he's expressed, and then you as a devotee, you follow that, you adopt that, you think about it, you contemplate on it. That can change the heart. And then that becomes, from a technique, it has to go into an experience. It's like in yoga, people learn techniques. Oh, my foot must point this way, my heel must point this way, then I put the pressure here. But after a while, it has to become your experience for you, not somebody standing there telling you what to do. You feel it, and when you feel it, then you will be able to do it, because it will transform you and give you that capability. So this is how Kumbhan Dasji managed to express so beautifully all of these poems. Once there was a celebration for Sri Gosaiji's appearance day. Kumbhan Dasji sold his 2 buffalo calves in order to contribute. Afterwards, Sri Gosaiji inquired of Ramdas as to where all the money for the offerings had come from. Ramdas replied, "Sadhu Pandey gave the flour and the ghee, and Kumbhan Das gave 5 rupees. Everyone else gave 1 or 2 rupees. They all gave as much as they could. In this way we collected 21 rupees. With this we bought sugar. The Lord accepted all of this, and Kumbhan Das came there and bowed to Sri Gosaiji, who asked him, 'Where did you get 5 rupees from?' 'I know the state of your home.' And Kumbhan Das replied, 'O Maharaj, where is my home? It is only at your lotus feet. Everything I have is yours. I had some buffalo cows, that we didn't need, so I sold them. If I offered even my body, my life, my breath, my home, my wife and children to you, only then would my duty as a Vaishnava be fulfilled. I am a worldly householder. How am I supposed to keep to the righteous path for a Vaishnava? You have graced me, knowing me to be a pauper. Hearing these words of Kumbhan, Sri Gosaiji was overwhelmed, and he said, this kind of humility can only be found in those whom Sri Acharyaji has graced. The Lord always remains with such souls, and Sri Gosaiji praised Kumbhan a lot. Thus he was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace. And Sri Gosaiji nominates Kumbhan to be the foremost example of perfect asaktitu and perfect faith in the Lord's form. So he has taught in his, and you can read them in the Dosobhavan, the stories of the 252 Vaishnavas. But Kumbhan, see, he says that you first of all develop sneha, or a love for the Lord. Then you develop asakti, which is attachment to the Lord. And then you develop addiction. And when the addiction is full, there's nothing you can do about it, really, is there? You're going to fulfill that addiction. So those are the three stages: sneha, asakti, and vyasan, which lead to perfect faith. So Sri Gosaiji said Kumbhan is the perfect example of such feeling. Now Srinathji, this is specifically the deity, the Swarupa of Sri Govardhan Nathji, Srinathji, who now lives in Rajasthan because he was taken from Braj due to attacks, you should say. What's the word? Due to pressure from unfavorable people who came from outside India, and so it was deemed fit and necessary to take him to Rajasthan up in the mountains, where he now has, as you know, have you been to Natadwara? It's a huge culture. So all those Brajvasis who came from Vrindavan and went and lived in the mountain because they took Srinathji there. Very strong language, strong culture, strong, what would you say, a pocket of culture up in Rajasthan, which is very, very devoted to Srinathji. So Srinathji was reciprocally greatly attached to Sri Kumbhan. He loved him back. And his relationship with his beloved was absolutely perfect. Once, when Kumbhan was late for his early morning seva of waking up his Lord with sweet melody, Srinathji refused to rise, preventing his other temple sevaks from getting ready for service by obstructing their preparations until Kumbhan was present. So they were trying to, open the seva and get Srinathji ready, but somebody got a stomachache, somebody did this, somebody got that. They could not until Kumbhan had sung. Srinathji, the deity, refused to get up until he'd heard the song sung by Kumbhan. When his son Krishnadas was killed by a lion, whilst protecting Srinathji's cows, Kumbhan seemed to be in deep mourning. But this was because, as a subsequent period of impurity, when a close person, family member, son passes away, you're not supposed to be able to enter the temple or do your seva for a period. Different opinions, 12, 13 days. Some people do more, some people do less. He wasn't crying or grieving because his son had died, because he was very happy that this soul had now gone back to Srinathji. He was only sad that he was not be allowed to go and see Srinathji because he was in this period known as Sutak. So just for his sake, Sri Gosai actually lifted that ban because he couldn't live without seeing Srinathji. So he lifted the ban, and the rule kind of changed then. I mean, a lot of people still keep that rule, but other people say that you can go in and see the deity, but you're not actually going to touch physically and get involved in the seva. And whilst Kumbhandasji's seva was interrupted for the specific number of days, he actually wrote a whole section of poems of separation. Very, very beautiful. They are presented in... So what we've done this year is take, this, in brief, his lifestyle, but all of his poets, all of his 32 compositions appear in his life story, and then we've added on another 23, so that it's a chappan, 56. Like you have chappan bhog, 56 preparations. So the book is a presentation of 56 dishes or different tastes. And the ones about the separation are very, very beautiful. Today we'll probably only have time to present 4, but you'll find from there. So, his Varta tale tells us he was a very simple person, unassuming, straight-laced Vrajvasi. He married, but he wasn't interested in family life. He never lied, and he never participated in sinful activity. He avoided societal struggles and was not much attached to the family home. His wife was a simple nature, and his devotional life was not obstructed by his family members. He didn't go to school, but was, as so easily perceived in his writing, an extremely deeply knowledgeable person and writer. But he lived in a holy environment at the time because he was very simple, and there was a huge culture of Krishna devotion in Govardhan, as you know, Govardhan and Jatipura. He lived to be 115 years, so 100 of his years were spent in composing poetry. 100 years. So imagine, huh? When Sri Acharyaji met Kumbhandasji, he was very impressed by his sattvic and humble personality, and initiated him into the path of Krishna devotion with what is known as the devotional initiation is known as Brahma Sambandha. That's a whole another 10 lectures about just Brahma Sambandha, what it means, what it involves. But then he said, would you please be my temple singer? I want you to come here and sing to Srinathji. He was offered many rewards by important leaders for his abilities, but he felt their offers to be useless and actually an affront to his dignity. He never accepted or asked for anything from them and requested them to leave him in peace, for he was a great vessel of grace and always totally satisfied with his life of seva. He saw everything as the grace of the Lord, where he will even assume He saw everything as the grace of the Lord, where the Lord will even assume the form that most favors a devotee's heart. So I'm sure that if we all really thought about exactly the form of the Lord, what does he look like to you? What does she look like to you personally? It would all be different. So the Lord is actually gracing you in that form that you like, that you love. Excuse me. And that's, again, as we discussed last week, just pure grace. So how do we become the vessel of grace? And that's the humility and the pure love that will bring that grace. I don't think you can learn such things. It's impossible to study them. We just have to be them. You have to be the way that you think is like, what would you say, taught, the way in the Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. But we have to be that. You have to live it. You have to think it every moment, every thought. And his language, as we've discussed before about Shri Surdas Ji, is Braj Bhasha. And Braj Bhasha was a fairly colloquial language, but Surdas Ji and all these other poets have uplifted Braj Bhasha to be, a significantly fine literary language, especially to try and describe such subject matters. I think even Sanskrit will struggle. Only Braj Bhasha can do this, seriously. Sanskrit can tell you the laws, Sanskrit can tell you, and it's beautiful, but Braj Bhasha is like, well, if you like to have tea with sugar and then you have to drink tea without sugar. I mean, I don't like sugar at all, but tea, you have a habit to drink tea without sugar. Then all of a sudden you get this beautiful sweet nectar. And that's Braj Bhasha. To me, it's the language with which Radha and Krishna, in which they speak to each other. And there are words there which you will not find anywhere. Nowhere. Impossible to translate. Because you can only feel it. You can't really say it. You need a whole paragraph of words to describe one word sometimes.
Are these words still used, or are these like ancient? Is it ancient Braj Bhasha, or has it changed?
No, not really.
No.
But yes, it's, obviously it's got bits of this and that and the other mixed in it. But if you would like to speak to these gentlemen, for example, it's their language. They've been singing since they were babies, since they were born. They've been making the music. A couple of years ago, a small baby was born into the family, and after birth he's put in the lap. So the stories are going on, the Lila's going on, the dancing's going on, the tablas, the pakawas, the janj, everything's being played. At 1 year, he could sit on a tabla and put his hands. He knew where to put his hands. You give him a harmonium, he knows. Ooh, ah. Because it's those sounds, isn't it? No? Seva, no? Good. Next to, okay, I don't know about his decibel thing of the microphones, but that's it, really. They gave him a little mridanga, and he quite incredible. And the children of the family, they would recite to you in Braj Bhasha, pure Braj Bhasha, just going on and on and on. I'm sure if you asked Devesh, he'd probably tell me off afterwards for telling you, but he played Radha in the Lila for 15 years. So can you imagine how much Braj Bhasha of the purest description, the conversations, the different moods and modes and all the different activities, all the different pastimes, they're right there in his head, in his heart. So yes, it is used now. And one note here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Book 2, Chapter 10, verses 1 to 9, the 10 main characteristic features of Bhagavad Dharma are listed. The 10th one is given as Ashray. Ashray means And ashray means taking surrender in, taking shelter in, taking refuge in, dedicating your life. So it's the devotional qualification is really that surrender, self-surrender. What happens in self-surrender is that your ego is completely annihilated. And in the initiation process, which is of